host of Wine Library TV, a.k.a. WLTV, and this is BBQ Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. This show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you want to get in touch with the show tonight, here's how you do that and keep up with me.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter, which you can subscribe to, by the way, on the main page of said website. And as a thank you, you will receive that very special homemade barbecue sauce recipe that I highly covet and only give out in triple secret if you sign up for the newsletter. My gift to you during the holiday season. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, he has been a quarterly guest all of this year doing the podumentary, from thinking about starting a barbecue trailer to actually starting a barbecue trailer and then running it through the balance of the year. You might also know him as the Utah Embedded Correspondent. We'll be welcoming back for the last quarterly check-in of 2022, Rusty Monson from Salt City BBQ. So we'll see what the last 90 days have looked like from an operating standpoint. We will also do some high-level look-backs, as in, what would you do different? Knowing what you know now, what would you do different 12 months ago? What would you have had in place? Pitfalls you might be able to avoid now. These are all the informational tidbits that Rusty has been doling out freely over the last, which will be 4 visits during 2020. So anybody else that has been thinking about doing this venture has really been able to glean only the highest level information that has been put into play here on Rusty's playbook. So hopefully that will continue here this evening. So Rusty will join us here shortly. Then 35 past the hour, the person who has started, or at least the website that I have become most familiar with here in 2022, which ranks as my most favorite of this year, Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com joins us. And if you're not following me socially, especially over the last couple days, then you missed the big reveal that publicly traded Weber Grills is now going back to privately held Weber Grills. So we'll talk to Wes Wright about that, when the announcement was made, why it was made, and then, of course, most importantly, what that means for Weber going forward. Could we see a Duquesne Grills of sorts? Could we see a Toys R Us of sorts? What does this mean from a business perspective? And what does it mean from a quality of grill build perspective moving forward? So we'll talk to Wes about all of that. We might high level it too on some of the other publicly traded companies and things we might look for as the year turns into business Q1 of 2023. And that'll wrap the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour. And joining me in what has been almost, maybe a little bit more than a 2-year hiatus, You originally knew him as president and CEO of MMA Creative, but then he got froggy with it and became the president, CEO, and founder of the World Food Championships. Yes, Mike McCloud rejoins the show in the second hour. Now, forward-thinking me decided to not have a 35.
Andrew, you are not the father.
That's a weird thing that this has grown up. If I say not the right way, it signals to my brain that that sound effect or that drop needs to play no matter what. Sometimes I say not and it doesn't trigger it, but sometimes if I say not the right way, like not,
Andrew, you are not the father.
then you hear it. It's wacky, wild, and live, local, and late breaking. I didn't put anybody in 35 past because it had been so much time since we had visited with Mike the last time. In fact, we were taking bets on if the World Food Championships in 2020 was going to happen with the Embedded Correspondence segment the week before Mike came on the last time, and 75% of us were right on the money, 25% of us were wrong. The majority thought there was no way it was going to happen, which was the case. 25% of us, it was probably Rusty, now that I think about it, because he's very positive, but I don't remember that specifically. But somebody said, yes, it was going to happen. If somebody was going to make something happen in 2020, Mike McCloud was going to be that guy. Of course, that did not come to fruition.
Get that big stuff out of here.
See, I said not right there, and then I wasn't stimulated to hit the drop on that not. I don't know why it is, but you know, sometimes the not is going to be right, and then Maury follows, and hijinks and hilarity soon after that. So we'll carry Mike into the balance of the second segment in the second hour. I don't know if we'll run the whole gamut or not, but we'll see how it goes. We might have a little barbecue talk with Mike McCloud as well. So we'll see what happens. That's the show. Rusty Monson, Wes Wright, first hour. Mike McCloud, second hour. Your emails and social media tweets I will mix in as it see fits. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook and Twitch/BBQ Central Show to watch. Also, you can take in the show via YouTube/RD Rempe, where we do have a this week's poll going on. So you have to go to YouTube in order to weigh in. And the question this evening, and if you're just listening through Facebook or whatever and you'd like to throw it up in the instant chat, I'll be able to see it as well. What's the bigger shock? Weber went private again, or Traeger is still the same? And 75% of you currently are saying the bigger shock is that Traeger is still the same. Also, we say good evening to those of you using our audio streaming platform, Clubhouse. So if you would rather hear us and not see us, that's the way to do it. Both YouTube and Clubhouse have a chat feature, which you can take advantage of as well. So let's start here this evening. I got a lot of emails about the segment I did closing the show last week with David McDowell. None of them were negative, mind you, but they were asking me if I really have seen success using the Do Wellness program. The bottom line is this. Any sponsor of my show is a business that I believe in or is a product that I use. For many of them, I currently use my own money to buy their products. It's not just all free for me. So when I tell you that I'm using the David Leans program, I'm using it, and I'm using my own money to use it. Otherwise, what skin do I have in the game? And as I mentioned last week, I'm not a guy who started off at 400 pounds or anything like that. In fact, 99% of you would look at me and say I'm too skinny 21 weeks ago, but I know my body. I know where I feel good at, and I didn't feel good, so I started using David's program, and it has worked. So this time of year is when many folks decide they want to make the change because the year is new, and I get it. But if you know now that you want to try and make a new change, a new lifestyle change, start now. Don't wait. The sooner you get going, the more days that you have under your belt when the new year hits. And let's be honest, using the new year as some kind of time marker is lame. I started in the middle of the year You measure by weeks, whatever it is. So as someone who has made the choice to change, David's system works, and I highly encourage you to get in touch with him to see if it makes sense for you. Don't just sign up blind if you don't want to. If you don't buy it from me for the last 21 weeks, that's fine. Get in contact with him. Ask him all the tough questions. Ask him how you think he would be able to help you get wherever you want to go. Have those conversations. Ask the questions. Then make the decision on if you want to sign on the line that is dotted. And by the way, I think you can sign up for a year and get a discount, but you can go month to month as well. So if you don't feel like it's working for you, if you're putting in that effort and you're not getting the results, you get the refund, just like I say each and every week. Your decision. But if you're asking me, does it really work? Yes. But I've also made the commitment. Rusty Monson is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just one moment. Big Papa Smokers is the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. A curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies, getting you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at Big Papa Smokers has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself, from the award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills and smokers. Big Papa Smokers, known for the championship rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Double Secret Steak Rub, all proven winners on the competition circuit and in the backyard. Big Papa's offering 13 perfectly balanced flavors that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary meals. Whether you're cooking to impress the judges or grilling for your family, Big Papa Smokers' award-winning rubs and seasonings don't disappoint. Big Papa's also the proud owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everybody, Granny's traditional yet powerful flavors remind us of why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. Yes. Aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, Big Papa's offering the very best pellet charcoal and wood cookers available today. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-Star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers is the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages that you can't get anywhere else, only him. If you're not a fan of pellet smokers or you don't know what type of grill you need, you can't go wrong with anything offered on the website, but call them and ask questions. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop their website at bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We are back with the pitmaster of Salt City BBQ, Rusty Monson, the Utah Embedded Correspondent. Right after this, stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. Also peruse all the other offerings that they have there on the website. That's cookinpellets.com. My first guest tonight, a Barbecue Central Show embedded correspondent, namely Utah, a championship award-winning pitmaster, the co-host of the Pitmasters podcast. He is also the owner-operator of a barbecue trailer that we've been following this year, 3 months ago. We talked about how business was going 120 days into life of the company, and tonight we get a new 90-day update to track business, revenues, and what new things he's learned over the past quarter that he might share with us. Let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome back my pal, Rusty Monson. Hey, Rusty.
Happening.
Last check of 2022, which I appreciate the year-long podumentary that we have done a live event, but then also transitioning into the podcast, of course. So what a fun and educational / informative ride this has been over the year. As we approach the turn into 2023, Rusty, what have the last 90 days looked like on the barbecue trailer?
A lot better as far as confidence goes. I believe last time we talked, I was on the tail end of basically being by myself and getting my butt handed to me. It's funny because I'll tell stories to some of the employees I have now. I'm like today, I did that by myself a year ago. They're like, no way, there's no way. I'm like, yeah, I did. It was a very chaotic time back then. It kind of came out of nowhere. I think we talked at a really good time as far as my breaking point went. That was about then, right after then, and it was a really tough time. So I've since we talked at last, actually, we talked about hiring people, which I have, to the extent of now I have someone on my payroll who can run the truck and can take the truck, who's insured on the truck, all that. So there's times where I can let him just go with some people, some employees, some team members to different spots. So it's been a lot easier as far as that goes, but the summer was insane. As much as it was easier, it was just one after another. We could have been 5 trucks and still been somewhere every day, twice a day. So it was crazy busy, crazy busy.
Some follow-up questions to that, and let's start with the most recent answer following up on that. When you, as you say, could have 5 trucks or 10 trucks in order to keep up with demand, as somebody whose livelihood is dependent on booking gigs, working concerts, however it is that you're getting these deals, is it maddening to you to know if you had more trucks, you could generate more revenue and ultimately more money in your pocket? Or do you are you able to segment that in your mind and go, hey, this is a great thing to think about, but we really need to take the basic steps to grow properly. Otherwise, we could be really busy. We could accommodate everybody, but what happens if X or Y happens? And now we have 4 of the 5 trucks sitting.
Yeah, we were looking to grow into that, and I think we have. I think we're at that point now where Jared, who is my right-hand man, can handle that second truck. And yes, we literally could have 3 trucks. I mean that. It's not exaggerating. We could have 3 trucks running at the same time. And yeah, it's maddening. Just today, I got a couple texts from people or emails asking to do like December 21st. What do you got? I'm like, we already have 2 events that day, 2 big caters back to back. I added another, so I have a third. It's gonna make it a little hard, and then I got a 4th, and I could, make it a lot easier to take that 3rd and have someone else do it, and then have the 4th. And it's often where we'll get. Again, today we had something all the way in February asking us to do something. It's a really good gig. We already have something, so it'd be really nice to have a second food truck to be able to go do that, and Jared can handle that. It's just now getting that second food truck, is the thing. I think we talked about this before. I am not someone who likes to get loans, so I don't go out and get $80,000 for a food truck. I'm trying to do it on my own. The goal this year is to save enough money to pay cash for one.
The other follow-up question to that is, did you say his name is Jerry, this guy that you're trusting? Or
Jared was on Salt City BBQ competition team, and he's come along with me. We used to work at Texas Roadhouse together. And so that's where he comes. So he's kind of been my right-hand man for a long time. So we know each other pretty well. So his help has been immeasurable. And without him, I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be sorry. I'd have a 9 to 5 somewhere in an office, I think.
I think you're probably a lot like me in certain instances. You're way more positive than me, but when your name is on it, you want to make sure that you're controlling it. There's the proper quality that's going into it. And perhaps nobody can do it like Rusty can, just like I don't ever ask anybody to help me with the show because I know nobody's going to be able to do it like me, and I don't want anybody's expectation to miss, and then there's heartache and whatever, bad feelings. When you have Jared ready to turn out on your own, are you also struggling internally going, should I go with him? Or is it just like, hey, I need to have this night off, or I need to be able to focus on this aspect of the business? I'm good with it. As you said, you have some history with him. Maybe that makes it easier, but is there a struggle with you internally that's trusting somebody else to do the Salt City job?
I said to him, I'm like, we have you start running the truck by yourself. This is something we're going to have to do down the road. Let's get going now while it's slow. Or and we can make, if things happen, it's not that big of a deal. And I need to get a lot of stuff done because it's now, like you said, it's that time where you start shifting. You got to start focusing on the business part of it and not the operations part of it. And so we set out, and it was his first day out, and it was a slow day, and it didn't matter at all. I was a ball of nerves. I was like, it was like leaving your kids home for the first time. You're calling the baby. Are they okay? Did they fall? Is everything okay? I heard screaming just now. Is everything all right? Like, it was really hard. In fact, it was such a stressful situation that I didn't get any of the work done I wanted to do. I couldn't focus on it enough. And it's still similar to that. I still worry about it. We left him. He went and did a gig on his own and just got hammered. And I felt terrible. So now I have this like kind of PTSD about letting him go. He can do it along with Mika, Morgan, all the people that work with us. And they can handle it. It's fine. I just, like you said, man, I just want to be there to make sure it's okay. I know I can, if I was there, we can handle anything. And we probably could without me, but I don't feel that way, and Jared's proven time and time again that he's fine, but man, I just can't let it go. It's hard. And it's something that I'm doing more now for myself than I am for him. I'm doing it so I can let go because I have to at one point.
Is hiring more people also a key to all of this? If you can hire 2 or 3 more Jareds, does that make life a little less stressful for you?
Right now, it's hard because it's a difficult time because last winter we took it a little slowly. I was able to do it alone, like I said. Now Jared and I pretty much can fill up the month, and we've hired a couple more people to keep them going. And I worry about their hours, but we haven't had that problem. So it's like I would like to start beefing up for the summertime because we could use 3 or 4 different people in the summer. Absolutely. And it's like, when do we pull that trigger? When do we back off? And how long, can we maintain these hours for these people in the wintertime? It's really hard on me because I had a girl just now just quit her job, and she's coming over here and she's like, I need hours. I'm like, okay. So I'm trying really hard to get all these events together, which isn't hard, to be honest. But it's difficult right now to want to hire someone, though, in just a little while, you're going to want to hire 5 of them, and it's going to be interesting next year to see when we have a full staff coming into the winter, how that's going to look.
Do you anticipate having the other food truck at that point?
Yeah. I anticipate having a lot more than that. I hope to have it at that point. And I also hope to, if not, have a catering program that's really solid. So even if we don't have a 3rd truck, we're able to do some catering options and really pump that side of the business. Because that's, to be honest, when it comes down to it, catering's where the money's at. It's where the real money is. So that's going to be our focus as well this summer. Coming in is just hammering. And if in business, you want to strike when the iron's hot. You're not in the wintertime going, all right, guys, let's build up our clientele now. It's a little too late for that. You want to do that when people are coming to your trailer. And in droves, you want to be able to push that. So that's our goal next year, is to have a really good program as far as catering goes. And hopefully that 2nd truck, that'd be fantastic.
You have a environment that shows winter for you so many months out of the year, just like it does here in Cleveland. Our pal Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue is out in Texas. He's followed similar suit to you, opening up a barbecue trailer down there. He's not affected as much as we are for weather. You going to notice a slowdown here over the next couple months, or are you able to do some kind of a concert venue thing or this catering that you were just talking about to supplement what you would normally get during warmer months?
We looked actively for things like that coming in the wintertime, and we were able to get connected with the biggest convention center, 2 of them in Utah. So we do convention center stuff. So if you have outdoor retailers came by, a wedding venue, wedding conventions and things like that, we go to the Pinners conference we just did. That was a big deal. So we keep busy that way. And that pays the bills. That pays all the bills for the month. And then we can do whatever we need to outside of that to make some extra cash flow. And that mostly becomes business lunches and drive and drop caterings. And that's kind of what our bread and butter is. Again, if we had a more solid program as far as catering goes, I would have not had so much to, I would have more hours for everyone, would have more business. And we're trying now, but I feel like we pulled that trigger a little bit too late. So next winter, it'll still be those conventions. That'll be a big part of it, but it'll mostly be catering that gets you through. That's what's going to help in the winter because, yes, the truck is successful. Yes, we can go out every day, but we're not going to make half as much money as we do in the summer. Just doesn't happen that way. It's too cold. No one wants to come outside. And the thing is, with other food trucks, it takes 10, 15 minutes. It takes us 45 seconds to produce something out the window, but they don't know that. So building that confidence with them that, hey, we're fast. You're going to come outside, grab some food, and head right back in. Don't worry about it. That's something also we have to try and do this winter to make it up and get confidence in them next year. It's like, oh, Salt City, we can just run out real quick. It's fine. That's going to be an important thing.
Rusty Monson joining us here on the show, the pitmaster of Salt City BBQ. Salt City BBQ.co is the website. We joked about it more or less last Embedded Correspondent segment, Rusty, or maybe it was 2 ago when we were reviewing and giving our thoughts on mail order barbecue. Was that something that has bubbled up even more as an option, or is it just fun to talk about at this point and no real opportunity to bring it to fruition?
You know, it's funny. I thought about it, and with John, he wants to do it, and I will, just to try it out, just to see if it'll work. But I'm actually, I went and got DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats and all that stuff, and I got it all set up and ready to go. And then I started ordering through them as a customer. And I ordered through one of them, and it took 45 minutes to get there. My sandwich was soggy, and in half the time it works great. They get there quick, no problems. Other times it takes up sometimes a long time. And I started thinking the whole time that person's coming with my food could be there, in that car. And I don't want that to go to a guest. I don't want someone eating that going, that's Salt City BBQ. Hell no. And I think of mail order the same way. I think of it as not my product, not the way, unless I can get it exactly and make it exactly the way I have it. I don't want to do it. I just, quality is too important for me. The reputation part of it, the branding part of it. Right now, it isn't going to work for us. So I don't think that's going to be a thing.
Almost a year later, maybe a little bit more than a year later, and probably through all these planning stages well over a year ago. You launch, here we are talking about it. Has the journey been worth it so far?
Absolutely. It's been a blast, man. It's been busy and it's been harder, but we're gotten our stride. We're feeling good about it. The food's dialed in. It's excellent food. And we're busy and people know us. It's just a trip when we wear my shirt and my hat. People, oh, Salt City, what's up? Or would run into someone like my youngest just started going to a private school, and the lady that runs the principal, whatever the hell they're called, she's like, oh yeah, I've been to your truck a couple times. That's really cool. And that's a trip, man. So that kind of stuff makes me feel good. It's better now. It's a different monster than it was before. Yes, it's the physical part. Yes, it's busy. Yes, it's being away from family. But now we have to be worried about cost of goods and reports and P&Ls and things like that are becoming more and more prevalent. Changed the menu recently, looking into food cost, dialing that in. It's a whole thing now. So it's a different ball game at this point. It's more, and I hate that stuff, man. I want to be on the truck. I don't want to be sitting there with my computer, putting in invoices and looking at P&Ls and crap like that. It sucks. It's hard. That's the hardest part.
Last year, we talked a lot about, in the beginning of this year, talked a lot about meat costs, briskets, porks, ribs, you name it. How is that affecting you now as you look to go into 2023? Is it stabilized a little bit more?
We are able to adjust prices. So if your briskets, we got down to $370 on brisket, which was the lowest I've seen it since I've had the food truck in this market, and now it's back up to $430 on average. So what you do is you take your $1.20 a pound pork butt, and it just becomes a little bit more expensive. Then you start to find ways to balance that out. Ribs are still expensive. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still the same they were before. So you have to roll with those. That's why we took our nachos. We made an adjustment with the recipes that made it still very, very good, but it also was more cost effective. And that way you balance out the poundage of the brisket and the 4 pounds of $4 a pound ribs that we're paying for right now. So it's more about balance. So when you see that stuff, you have to adjust things. Unfortunately, that's when your $1 a pound pork butt goes to $16 a pound. When you see someone in the restaurant like that, that's how they're surviving. And that's how they're cutting the costs in the big cost areas, such as brisket and especially as ribs now. So we added sausage, we added desserts to it to kind of counteract that food cost as well. So the food cost has actually lowered. just by following it, keeping up with it, and adjusting. But the food is still very expensive, and people haven't batted an eye. I haven't had one person complain about it ever. So, it is what it is.
I'm not looking for specific numbers, although people would press to say that's the only thing I like to ask anymore. Through the year, are you operating in the black, or are you at break even at this point? What does it look like financially?
We actually just answered this question the other day. Me and my wife sat down, looked at it, and I would be able to pay, if let's say my wife's job didn't exist, I would be able to pay the bills so that we can keep the lights on, the house paid, and that's about it. But that's a pretty good chunk of money still.
Cool.
And people, I just got done talking to some people in a meeting that they have some other food trucks that they didn't make a single dime for 3 years. So for me to be able to pull some money out of it has been really cool. So that, yeah, it's been nice.
In the future, let's look a year or 2 or 5 down the road. Is there an end game of a restaurant or more than 2 units? What are we looking at?
The goal now is going to open up a brick and mortar with 2 food trucks, not trailers, trucks specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to have a sausage area where we can make sausage, a big enough area so we can run the food truck portion out of it and the catering program out of it, get a catering truck and 2 food trucks and the restaurant itself, and run those streams. That's the goal. It might be happening sooner than I thought, but we'll see how it goes. But opening a brick and mortar, having the 2 food trucks, doubling the food truck program that we have now, and then also adding, again, the catering and then the restaurant portion. So things that I've done my whole life. So it's nothing I'm scared of. It's something I'm very used to. But that's going to be the end game. And then hopefully we can, make a lot of money and sell it off and go buy a house in Maui, and that's it. C'est la vie.
You said you're not into taking loans. So barring making bags and bags of cash on the revenue/profit side, you might be looking at potential investors. Is that something that you're open to looking at? Because I know there's certain operators that don't want to do any of that. They don't want somebody coming in and taking a stake. They also don't want to go out and take loans, so they'll just save and reinvest, or whatever money that they're making, they'll just reinvest back into the company to try and achieve the next steps of growth. What are your thoughts on that?
You can go the bank route, but they're not going to be easy on you as a startup. You have to show that you have to show a proof of concept with them. They have to know that you're making money, and they have to see the track record. And if you don't have a track record, or your track record isn't good enough yet, you have to have investors. It's really the only way. And for me, having an investor and experiencing what I've experienced with a friend of mine who owns a successful barbecue restaurant here, and seeing it firsthand, being a pitmaster at a startup, helping a friend out, it's really scary because in those 2 situations, ended badly for the person that started the barbecue restaurant. I wouldn't say badly for my friend because he left with a lot of money, but the other one ended pretty badly for us. So seeing that is really scary. But you have to understand, it's like a marriage. If you get to know the person well enough and you become good friends and understand each other's vision, and you want to execute that vision together, and understand that I do what I do and you do what you do, and stay in your lane, then you can be successful with a partnership. I realize that it's something I didn't want to do before, but talking with people, knowing now, that's kind of what you have to look at it as, and get to know them. And because if you get in a bad marriage, it's going to end badly. If you get in a good marriage, it's going to be successful. And that's what investment is. And that's where I'm headed. That's where I'm looking for now currently.
Rusty Monson is running Salt City BBQ, and you can check him out there in Utah. Salt City BBQ.co is the website. So go ahead and check out that website to see where he might be at next and get your hands on some of that grub. Rusty, look, this year has been great. The quarterly visits have been outstanding, chock full of information, especially for the folks that have been toying around with doing something similar wherever they are. So to hear your trials, tribulations, successes, and hurdles, and how you've been able to overcome them to have what has really been a hugely successful first year and growth only ahead of you is fantastic. And I certainly appreciate you being as candid and as open as you are. Continued success, and we will check in again next year.
Perfect, man. Appreciate the time. I love this little segment. It's fun. It's therapeutic, really.
Good. Glad we can do that. Rusty, right there. He'll be back in 2 weeks as we close out 2022 with the Embedded Correspondence segment. So hopefully you enjoyed the podumentary, as we call it. Rusty Monson right there from Salt City BBQ, checking in for the last time this year and having a successful run at it, which is great because, as we know, anything that has to do with food service can be a little bit dicey. But Rusty has a fairly extensive background in the restaurant industry, food service industry, so he's been able to leverage that experience into the success that he's seeing right now. So congratulations to Rusty. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grill and the game-changing oval design. This shape gives you the ability to execute a two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. Really, when you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to cook on a Primo cooker. So you're only limited by your culinary imagination. Of course, they have the accessories, the Primo Grill rotisserie, the Primo Grill pizza accessory, and so much more. All sold through dealers. So find one near you by visiting the website primogrill.com. That's primogrill.com. And then visit them, touch them, feel them in person, get educated by your dealer, and then pick out the best oval for you. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz, patented technology, true two-zone cooking capabilities, multiple sizes. Visit primogrill.com to find a dealer near you. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram as well. Longtime sponsor of the show. And if you have a Primo, I'd love to hear your success stories and what you love about it. We're back with Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Rusty Monson for joining us last segment. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring. Or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in home, you're in luck. Fireboard, fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Don't forget to check out that Fireboard Spark, changing the industry. My next guest tonight, the creator of my favorite barbecue and grilling website of 2022. I'm not afraid to say it, and of evidence of that, you've seen him on the show more than a few times over the last half year because, quite frankly, he's doing it better than anybody else is doing it in our industry right now. If you didn't see the news, his social posts or my social posts over the past few days, you might not have heard that Weber has gone back to being a privately held company. Here to dive into it with me is the creator of cookoutnews.com. We race to the hotline and welcome back Wes Wright to the show. Hey, Wes.
Hey, Greg. How's it going?
I am fabulous, and let's start. So as quickly as Weber and Traeger raced to get to the IPO starting blocks and then get out of those blocks, only to see the price of their shares race to the bottom of the barrel in successive months, Weber's now gone back to being a privately held company. Now, we've heard talk of this happening over the past handful of months as we've seen those prices drop, but how do we get here?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to what, we've talked about a few times on your show and you've talked about. It was started with the unrealistic expectations from the pandemic. Is surprisingly that many executives and investment firms just bought into that this was the trend, right? So loaded up on inventory, loaded up on production, just to see that go unfulfilled. Then now, when it came crashing down, there's an inventory glut. Weber's not making cash, which means they didn't make enough money through the grilling season to make it through the winter. They're more leveraged than pretty much any other public grill company out there. And even Citigroup said that they're the most leveraged company that they cover. And they got to a spot where they needed even more debt to make it through the winter from what little cash they had. So they're in this spot where it's either the company that's the majority shareholder, BDT Capital, either buys them back or they lend them more money. And it turns out it's a combination of both.
For the non-business savvy, you've said leveraged a couple times. What does that mean in business speak?
Yeah, it means having enough earnings to pay your debt. So it's just like for people, if let's say you make $1,000 a month, but your debt payments are $1,200 a month, you've got a problem. You either have to make more money, have less expense, or take on more debt to pay for the debt that you have, or some combination of all three. So that's basically what it is. They just have a ton of debt compared to the money they're earning. And like Traeger announced earnings a few weeks ago, their grill sales for the quarter that just ended were down 67% or something like that. So in that environment, you don't have enough money to they call it service your debt, but pay your debt, going forward.
So you don't want to be leveraged in the end. The less leveraged you are, the better financially you are.
So there's some ratios that are guidelines. You want to be within have a certain amount of leverage is okay. But having too much is a problem. You need leverage a lot of times in business to pay for big purchases. Let's say Weber, they opened a plant in Poland. I'm not sure how they paid for it. I didn't look into it, but they have a, I think it's build it where you buy it or something like that. They have some slogan where, you buy grills where they make them. So using that, you don't have, whatever it costs, $50 million to build out a plant. So you take on some money with the idea that you'll sell more grills and can pay for it. It's just an issue. If you don't sell grills, then, you have now an interest payment to make on top of not making enough money.
Wes Wright joining us here on the show, cookoutnews.com, his website. You should be reading it multiple times a week because Wes is putting out great content. What's the benefit of going public? Is it just being able to raise money through shares, or is there something else?
I think a lot of it is just that, is for Weber executives, for Weber as a company, and for the investment firm behind it, you get a nice payday out of it. There's kind of a dirty secret with when you IPO that you get all these pre-IPO shares that are, then IPOs at a high price, which almost always comes down pretty much every IPO that happens. You sell at that price, you make a nice chunk of change and, walk away happy, I guess.
Do you think as we look into some of the other bigger companies that have gone public or that have been public for a while now, Traeger, for instance, do you think they're in a similar situation, or even though the stock has been racing to the bottom, that it's not going to be a similar story as Weber's experiencing now?
I think Traeger's a little different. I haven't seen, Weber, I think they report earnings tomorrow morning, but Traeger had about half the leverage that Weber did, and they were one of the first to make some pretty deep cuts. That's another thing too, that clearly if Weber's in this situation, they didn't cut deep enough when they, announced all the layoffs and fired their CEO and all that stuff. And for Traeger, they have the benefit of that people still are buying their grills, right? So one thing that if you look at the earnings for Home Depot or some of the other retailers, they noted that consumers are still buying grills that are, tech heavy or innovative, which they were alluding to Traeger. They didn't call it by name, but that's the only one they're really, actually they did. They said Traeger specifically. They just have an issue that they're overstocked. And they also said that, traditional grills that you think of, and they didn't say Weber this time, people weren't willing to pay for them unless they were heavily promoted or, heavily discounted. So that's another problem, is that, Weber hasn't been on the forefront of innovation, in my opinion. I know there probably have some Weber fans that listen, but actually Traeger's CEO said it in an interview. When Weber talks about innovation, they release a new color or a new knob. That's kind of what they've been doing lately.
Do you foresee a time in the next 6 months or going into next grilling season that Weber's going to have to deep discount a bunch of their inventory to at least move it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll know more tomorrow, but yeah, I mean, I think they'll have to. They just have a glut of it. Camp Chef, they're owned by Vista Outdoor, but their CEO, he presented an analyst presentation and was talking about it'll take probably 2 to 3 quarters to run through the inventory that they have. And they do have some innovative product offerings where, Weber is kind of a commodity product in a lot of ways, with the exception of, some of their higher end grills, which might be somewhat insulated. But, I think that they're going to have to, discount their products to move through it. That was something too that Camp Chef even said. They said basically everything's on sale, and that's the only way you're moving stuff in this environment.
Are they making stuff too still? Like if you're gonna take 2 or 3 quarters, I mean that's putting you into Q3 of 2023, so you're through the grilling season at that point. Are you still also making new stuff, or do you have to put manufacturing on hold, or can you even do that?
Yeah, you slow it. You run into a problem too, which every grill company claims isn't an issue, but we'll see. Is you run into obsolescence. Having just product sitting in a warehouse somewhere for a year. You could run into issues like rust or who knows, or just it's old product that people don't want anymore necessarily. Everyone says that's not going to happen and it's not an issue, but we'll see. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to keep producing and adding to that inventory when the hardware stores aren't even buying it.
And this isn't like, for instance, my day job is selling Class A trucks for Peterbilt. There was a time a year and a half ago, maybe it was going on 2 years ago, where there were 4,000 trucks. We couldn't complete the trucks coming offline in Denton. They were getting lined up in fields in Texas. And over those weeks and months, as they were waiting for components to show up to finish and then ship to the dealers, who knows what's going on in the fields, and mice and foxes and whatever else might be gnawing at the tires or taking their whacks at electrical componentry, what have you. So if somebody didn't want it, there's like secondary truck markets. You could ship some of these off to Mexico, or you could put them on containers and ship them overseas. Typically, that's reserved for trucks that are, well into the second life, or, well over 1 million miles on an engine or something like this. You don't have the similar luxury of this with grills. As you said, you're building where they're buying. So it's not like there's just some wide secondary market that you could ship a bunch of these off to and fire sale them and get through some of that inventory you're sitting at.
Yeah, they're sitting probably in various places, but you're right. There isn't an existing. We haven't had market conditions like this before. Camp Chef, and I keep referring to them, but they did something on their website. If you notice, they introduced the Camp Chef outlet where they list overstock items, and Traeger's, without calling it an outlet. I mean, like the Pro Set 575, which is really popular, is like $300 or $400 off through Christmas. It's, and they also run into a problem too, where not only do they have too much inventory, as they sell it, like the Home Depots of the world, they're not restocking it. They're destocking their inventory. So they're shrinking what they have on hand. So it's sitting somewhere. We'll see if they run into an obsolescence issue. They might have to resort to something like you're talking about.
When Weber's finally taken back private, I know the announcement's made, but there's probably some time that actually has to transition to get them out of where they currently are back into the private sector. How do you see that benefiting them? Or do you?
It's kind of funny because they're owned by an investment firm, right? Which, even though I'm kind of from that world, I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth about the whole investment community in that regard. But it'll benefit them because a lot of that debt is to themselves, essentially, right? BDT Capital wrote they just issued them a loan for $350 million at 15%, but it's to pay themselves back. So they're going to buy the company, and it's kind of moving from one hand to another, right? When you pay those debt payments. So it'll benefit them that they won't have to, worry about that quarterly earnings cycle. Because when you do that, people like me get to go through all your financials and all your information, and it just whacks your stock, and it just keeps plummeting. And, you get more and more pressure to make changes in management or in changes in how you operate. If you're private, you don't have to do that. It's up to them, how much cash they're willing to burn, and they can, do anything or nothing at all. It's up to them. So it'll help them in that regard.
Are there any other publicly traded companies that we've referenced over the year that we should be on the lookout for that might be in similar jeopardy?
Let's see. I'm trying to think through. I don't think any of the publics. Weber is the worst out there in terms of what situation they're in right now. Because the other ones, they're part of other groups like like Camp Chef's part of Vista Outdoor, which has a lot of other another 15, 20 brands, something like that. Gorilla Grills, they're public through American Outdoors, but again, that's that was Smith and Wesson's holdings, and it was a spin out from that, so it's diversified as well. So it's the only core focused grill companies are really Traeger and Weber. If you get into a little more lifestyle brands with some cooking, there's Solo Brands, but the funny thing about that is they're doing pretty well. So they're not seeing the same thing they are, because people are still making back patio purchases.
Wes, anything new coming up that we're going to want to be checking out the website for here in the next handful of days?
Yeah, well, tomorrow for sure, I'll get something up about Weber. I'll just need a little time to go through it, so it'll probably be later in the day. And I did a pretty comprehensive piece that I'll put out. I'm hoping to get out tonight. We'll see if I want to sleep, but it's all about the Franklin barbecue pit. I talked to Aaron Franklin and went through kind of the whole design and build and story behind that. So I hope to get that up within the next day or two.
Wes Wright joining us here on the show. The website, of course, cookoutnews.com. And if you're just tuning in and you missed all the Weber talk, don't worry about it. You can get it in a podcast starting tomorrow. Wes, always appreciate the time. And I'm just so happy that Scott Moody from The Variable put me on to the website, and we've been able to have you on here over the last half of the year, and look forward to what we will be doing as in monthly segments in 2023, because you're doing it right. So we're looking forward to doing that. Wish you a great holiday, and we'll see you in January.
Yeah, sounds great. Have a great holiday.
All right, there he is, Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com. And you heard it right. We'll be doing monthly segments starting in 2023, because he is doing it better than anybody else right now as far as breaking news, being able to explain the business side of things, all that fun stuff. So we always want to have the best guests here on the show that are bringing high value. And Wes certainly at the top of that list. Cookoutnews.com. That's cookoutnews.com. All right, let's see here. We'll save those. Yeah, we're good. So we will take a quick break. If you want to jump in through Clubhouse, now is your time. Or you can just tweet at me at BBQ Central Show, and we can read some of those reactions to either Rusty's last quarterly visit of 2022 or anything Wes Wright had to say, or maybe you have a take on what's happening in the live fire business world right now. It's shaking it up, no doubt. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Wes Wright for joining us last segment. CookoutNews.com is his website. And as he said, depending on if he wants to sleep or not, he'll post the Franklin barbecue interview that he had with Aaron talking about his cookers. And tomorrow, maybe in the afternoon, you'll see a update piece on where Weber's sitting right now. Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue weighing in. Notice all the mics work. Take note, Meathead. That's right. That's right. Some people do the sound checking. Actually, Rusty's an old pro, so he doesn't need to. And we've had Wes Wright on enough where he knows how to do it as well. We say good evening to Casey Hansen. Not a name that I usually see, so Casey, if it's your first time, welcome into the show. Why not? Email from Mark in Kentucky. Greg, I love the show with Donnie Bray last week. I took his competition class a number of years ago, and it was great. I wondered what he got into since he left the competition scene. Thanks for a great segment. And I, for one, hope Donnie gets back into the competition scene again. Love the show, but podcast only for me. Regards, Mark. Mark, thank you for listening to the show and weighing in. I agree. Donnie Bray was 100% awesome last week. It's great to get back in touch with him. It had been going on 6 years, I believe, since the last time we had him on the show. And if it's your first time getting introduced to Donnie Bray, congratulations, that was a great introduction. But then you can also go back to the main page of the website, and in the search function right there, top middle, you can search Warren County Pork Chopper, or you can search Donnie Bray, B-R-A-Y, and you can see all of the different times he's been on the show and go back to listen to those. Matt in Maryland is weighing in. Maybe pull this up. This is part of a visual here that we're going to need to see. Matt in Maryland. Oh. Hold on, let me refresh the screen. Sorry. Play 2. There we go. Now we can see it. Matt Maryland writing in, Greg, went to a Mexican restaurant in Maryland not too long ago, and guess what was on the menu? Here it is, Chori Pollo, sweeping the nation. Number 131 on your ordering menu, grilled chicken breast topped with chorizo and queso dip served with Spanish rice, refried beans, and a choice of flour or corn tortillas. My Mexican restaurant only offers flour tortillas, which I certainly appreciate. But Matt in Maryland is showing us that the craze sweeping the nation continues to sweep the nation. Chori Pollo. Matt, thank you for writing in. I did follow up with him after he wrote in the email, and I said, well, I appreciate the picture, but have you eaten it? He said, yes, I've had it a couple times, and he's a fan. And then I immediately sent it to Sam, the cooking guy, who immediately took a dump all over it, which I don't understand because he put a version of Chori Pollo on his menu over at Gray's. And I think he gave me a recipe in his latest cookbook, too. The Chori Pollo mentioned me by name, Greg in Cleveland. My best pal, Greg in Cleveland. I think that's how it went. So while he's accepted it, he continues to self-loathe about Chori Pollo when all you need to do is put your arms and hug it. Hug it. It's sweeping the nation. There's no culinary dish out there right now that is hotter than Chori Pollo. There's not. I have the proof, the pictures from all over this great land of ours. Anyway, we're pointing at the second hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Yo, pod! This is Meat Mitch, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Libertius, shake your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. This is the Barbecue Central Show. We talk about only the highest level barbecue and grilling related items. If you're just tuning in, you missed the first hour. Not to fear, we are recording for podcast. So you can get the first hour tomorrow in the morning. You can also get the second hour Thursday. I'll tell you about Friday here in just 1 second. Still to come on this show this evening, starting in about 13 minutes from now, Mike McCloud of MMA Creative, also the creator of the World Food Championships, is set to join us for no less than one segment, and there's a very good chance he's going to press into two. Of course, the show being brought to you from where?
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
I had referenced Casey Hansen through Facebook saying that he's listening to the show, and he has been a podcast listener for 11 years and counting. Wow, look at you, Casey. Appreciate you listening through the podcast, as most people do. When you look at the breakdown of the demographics and audience statistics, while through the live various platforms, Clubhouse, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, we might have 200 to 500, sometimes thousands of watchers through the course of the show, not all concurrently, I think is what I meant, not congruent. I believe that's a measurement of some sort, congruent angles. Concurrent, sometimes. But then you look at the audio downloads per month of this show, which is how 90+% of you, maybe 95% of you get the show. We're averaging well over 40,000 audio downloads per month through iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever podcast platform that you use. A podcast download falls into that number. And we've reached over 500,000 downloads this year, 2022. I was hoping for 400,000. I think at the end of 2021, we were towards 360, 365. And I was hoping to get towards 400,000 this year. And somewhere right around halfway through the year, things really picked up. I don't know if somebody famous started mentioning the show to their pals or tweeted it out or something, but download numbers ticked up and haven't stopped since. So we're well over 500,000, or we will be well over 500,000 by the time the year ends. So somebody like Casey, who's a traditional podcast listener, but's catching the show live, I've often said, do yourself a favor. If you're always a podcast listener, figure out one Tuesday night in your life where you can catch the show live, because who knows what's going to happen? Certainly, when Casey's listening to the show in podcast, he doesn't know what's going to happen, but it's not live. Anything could happen right now. Anything at all. The internet could go out. My guest could back out. Who knows what could happen? I don't know. But none of us know what's going to happen next right now, Tuesdays between 9 to 11. That's why it's a live production. As you listen to it in podcast, it is recorded. It's new to you. You don't know what's going to happen unless something crazy happens and then somebody's like, oh, hey, did you watch it last night? You know, you were part of the whole thing. Otherwise, no. That's why you got to listen once, one time. Yeah, Dan's right. Crappy mics could happen. We don't want crappy mics to happen.
Get that big stuff out of here.
We don't want that, but it could happen. Hey, still to come on the show this evening, Mike McCloud from MMA Creative and the creator of the World Food Championships. We say good evening to those of you watching through our streaming video platforms, Twitch and Facebook/BBQ Central Show. You can also tune in to YouTube/RD Rempe. If you would also like to chat, there is a chat going on in the YouTube page. We also say good evening to the folks using the audio streaming platform Clubhouse. So if you would rather hear us and not see us, Clubhouse is the way to do it. Also a chat feature there. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, episode 260, taking you back to, I wasn't exactly sure on the date. I'm going with December 1st, 2010, although it could be 2011, but let's go with 2010 for now. December 1st, 2010. The holiday season is firmly upon us. There's no question about it. So what would make your holiday season even better? Yes, you guessed it. The 12 days of Barbecue Christmas coming to your podcast feed on Friday. And just when you think you couldn't possibly have more holiday spirit and cheer than you have right now, we're going to take that spirit knob and turn it to 11. You will be so jacked up by the time you're done listening on Friday with holiday spirit, you won't know what to do with yourself. As Clark Griswold said, you'll be whistling zippity-doo-dah at your butthole. Now, I do want to give thanks and credit to the songwriters of the 12 Days of Barbecue Christmas, namely Matt Frampton, who you would know as the founder of Urban Slicer Pizza Works, and the live fire pizza guru that I have here on this show, also part of a barbecue competition team called Hot Grill on Grill Action, and his barbecue buddy, Logan Hendrickson, also from Hot Grill on Grill Action. Remember, this song is now celebrating its 12th year anniversary. I think it might be time to dust this bad boy off, get the girls back down in the recording studio, and redo it. Or maybe we go ahead and do it live one more time.
We'll do it live.
Yes, why not? Everybody's a lot older. Maybe everybody can sing a lot better. We should do it live one more time.
We'll do it live.
Why not? I don't know if the girls would be down for it, but I certainly would be. I've become very adept at singing live on this show. Of course, we all know I'm this year's Barbecue Central Show's American Idol champion, yes. So I'll sing at the drop of a hat. Not well, but I'll sing it. I don't care. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I can get Bobby, Maddie, and Marley down here for another rendition of the 12 Days of Barbecue Christmas. But that's what you have to look forward to on the Best Moments show this coming Friday. So if you've never heard the 12 Days of Barbecue Christmas, you will be enlightened, to say the least. It will quickly become your most favorite holiday song. And next year, after you forget about it, right around this time, you will be refreshed once again. That seems to be a staple that John goes for, which I certainly appreciate. Don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or segment again that has been lost in the archives, email John and let him know what you'd like to hear, jon@thebbqcentralshow.com, and he'll do his best to meet your expectation. Upcoming shows still left in December and or for 2022. Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly makes his last quarterly appearance. Mr. Jonathan from the Cigar Authority podcast will join us next week. So we'll see what's smoking good, and we'll get some tips for all the new potential cigar smokers as the year crosses into 2023. Also, Derek Riches will be joining us for his monthly segment, and as I had mentioned during Rusty Monson's segment, the Embedded Correspondent will be showing up on the fourth Tuesday to close out the year right. Also, on the 27th, we will be joined by Noah Glanville, the CEO and co-founder of Pit Barrel Cooker. So he's a rebook from when the show was missed a handful of weeks ago. So looking forward to those shows as we close out the year. And yeah, we'll stop there. We'll get ready for Mike McCloud from World Food Championships, I will quickly tell you about Green Mountain Grills. That's right. 2 different lines to choose from. We know this. Choice line, prime line. So if you're looking to save a couple bucks, if you're looking to go into pellet cooking, you want something that's better than the entry level, but you don't want to blow the wad. Choice line. 1 size to choose from. Works great. I have a pair of them on my patio right now. They work great, and they're 10 plus years old. Now, if you want all the other bells and whistles that you're seeing, Prime Line is the one you're going to want to take a look at. 2 internal meat probes. You have the ability to look into the cooking chamber. There's lights in the cooking chamber. You can also look into the pellet hopper to see where that pellet level is. Whole bunch of cool stuff. Value adds, as we say in the biz. So you decide how you want to spend your money. Then go online, greenmountaingrill.com, and find a dealer near you. Visit that dealer. Touch them, feel them, love them. Get educated by the dealer. And then pick the one that's best for you. The best part is this. No matter which one you pick, you're going to love it, A. B, the choice and the prime lines accommodate the pizza oven insert. What's better than high-heat pizza? Nothing. When you're sick of smoke roasting or slow smoking or whatever you're going to do normally with your Green Mountain Grill, you could turn that thing into a high-heat pizza oven with the pizza oven insert. You can make pizzas in 2 to 3 minutes. Everybody can make their own. It's fun. Great change of pace. Great on the weekends. Great during the week. Great every day of the week. Why not? GreenMountainGrills.com. That's GreenMountainGrills.com. And you can hook up with some accessories there if you want to complete the Green Mountain Grill cooking experience. Yeah, you can do it. GreenMountainGrills.com. That's GreenMountainGrills.com. We're back with Mike McCloud right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you are a beginner or a professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. As I had mentioned, Noah Glanville to show up on the 27th. Guy the Cooking Sam weighing in, showing that he's a true fan, saying Miller Lite. Of course, what he meant to say was Coors Light. Come on, Guy. But I appreciate the fact that you were able to pull the light. That is the minutia that I want to see from a true fan right there. You knew it was light because my kids were singing, and a case of cold Coors Light. That was the whole thing. You'll hear about it Friday, trust me. Hey, my next guest last appeared on this show in September of 2020. You would know him as the person who has created something called the World Food Championships. A few weeks ago, we had the winner of the barbecue side of that event, Sterling Smith, on to talk about the win, his experience at this year's rendition. And now we get the breakdown from the man himself. We race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Mike McCloud. Mike, the last time you were on the show, we talked about how the World Food Championships was going to be or not going to be affected by the coronavirus. We are now 2 years outside of that last conversation. What were the past 2 years like for you and the organization?
I didn't know you were going to start with a loaded question. Why would I be surprised by that?
By the way, welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Yeah. Merry Christmas. You know, it's been a very interesting ride. It was tough. I'm not going to kid you. For about a year and a half there, the whole food sport world got shut down, and we were impacted just like everybody else was. And we lost the 2020 event but we were able to pull it back in 2021. We were able to run it back again last month, and it's been a pleasure. It's been exhilarating, but it's also been exhausting. There's been a lot of mountains that had to be moved and a lot of hurdles jumped in the whole process. And I still don't think that we're at full mast as far as being back at the momentum, the pace of momentum that we had in 2019 going into 2020. But you have to dig in. You have to basically draw a line in the sand. You have to commit to something. It's like we talk about golf occasionally, right? You have to commit to your swing and you have to follow through. So that's why we did make 2021 happen, and we came back strong, and I think stronger in 2022. Are we where we need to be based on the 2019 levels? I think we're a little shy of that, but we're gaining momentum pretty fast, and we just came off a pretty good event. So I guess I should be tickled that we actually were able to rebound as quickly as we did. But I know there's a lot of there's a lot more ahead of us. There's a lot of mountains ahead of us that we got to climb.
There wasn't really anything you were going to be able to do to miss 2020. Do you have a conversation with the folks, the business partners, if you will, the sponsors, whatever you want to call them, and say, hey, we're going to take it to the bench here for 1 year, but let's stay in touch and let's all agree that next year this is going to happen. We're going to come back bigger and better than ever, or at least get some momentum coming back in here that we can use over the next handful of years. Is there ever any danger that a lot of people are just going to pull out, or they're going to get interested in something else and not come back?
There's always that danger. I mean, that danger exists every year, year over year, no matter what you're facing. So that certainly was something that we were concerned about at the time. But I don't know how many events did this. We may have been the only event that actually still held some kind of virtual competition in 2020. In 2020, we also, gosh, it's amazing to look back on that and think how we were able to sandwich between the two COVID spikes, the final table. I don't know if you recall, but we actually did a final table in, I think it was August of 2020. And at that time, we were pretty sure that we were not going to be able to do the main event in November. So we had to call it off about 3 months in advance because there's too many dominoes at an event like ours, whether it's power being run, whether it's ovens being set, facilities being secured, portalets, contracting for things like that, and then also working with hotel blocks and just a myriad of things, let alone the competitors who have to be able to get off from work and or leave home and not be afraid of leaving home. In 2021, when we came back, we noticed that there was still a lot of that fear out there. There's a lot of people that still believed it wasn't safe to travel, even though we had, half of America was for it and half of America was against it. We certainly noticed some of that in the competition levels, the number of competitors in 2021. So, and that had some impacts on what we decided for 2022. But in 2020, we certainly had to kind of forecast about 4 months in advance. Is this going to be possible or not? And if not, what are we going to do? And we did some virtual contesting. We actually awarded, if I recall correctly, we awarded probably about $20,000 in a virtual competition. I don't know anyone else who did that. So we wear that as a badge of honor. We talk about that as a level of commitment that we have to food sport. And we use examples like that to prove that we're trying to fulfill the role of a leader in this industry. And I think we did pretty well to be able to do the final table and do a virtual series in late 2020.
Mike McCloud joining us here on the show. WorldFoodChampionship.com is the website. So the 2022 version of WFC happens not too long ago. You've had time now to do the post-mortem on it. How does year 10 stack up compared to the other versions?
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
People ask me how I rank every year, and there's about 6 or 7 dimensions that I look at when I give my answer and really give a full-throated reply to that. From an operational standpoint, it was an absolute home run. From a competition standpoint, absolute home run. From a strategic shift standpoint, trying to implement some things that we believe are important going forward with food sport, master judges, being able to pick winners, put eyes on the actual field instead of total blind judging. Absolute home run. The live panel judging that we implemented for the first time, where the X factor was really about show and tell. Tell these panel of experts what's so great about your dish. This is your 2 minutes of salesmanship, your 2-minute elevator pitch to tell our judges what makes your dish so fantastic, and why you should win. Those were absolute home runs. Weather sucked. Obviously, we can't control that. The location that we're in is both fantastic and challenging. One, it forced us to figure out how to do this event indoors for the most part, and trust me, that is a major positive. We still, if you're barbecuing and you're grilling or you're doing a burger or steak, you still have to do live fire outdoors. But the other 70% of our competition can be done indoors, and that is just a phenomenal benefit to this whole industry, because you don't have to face the elements. You can control your environment. You can hear people. You can see stuff, and you can enjoy yourself. So all that being said, those aspects were positive. We have a whole equal list of things that we believe we need to work on and we need to improve. But that comes out of every event. Greg, you've known me for a long time now. We would like to look back at successes, and we'd like to put a star next to those things, but we don't rest on our laurels. We keep trying to push the envelope, and as long as blood is running through my veins, and I continue to try to fulfill this quest that I'm on for various reasons, we're going to continue doing that. And that means that every year there's going to be a list of things that I want to improve and things that we need to improve on. So overall, though, the 10th anniversary was I think a great event, and we couldn't have pulled it off without great partners and great volunteers and great people who just believe in what we're doing and give so much blood, sweat, and tears to the effort. So my heart and my mind goes out to so many individuals who helped us in many walks of this event, and they know who they are.
It's funny that you mentioned how long we've known each other, Mike, because I remember when there was no such thing as the World Food Championships. Now we're in year 10, where it's really solidified itself as something that's happening every year. Anybody that's got any type of culinary inkling knows about it, wants to take part in it. Of course, everybody wants to win it. But there were years where maybe you were thinking about it, but we had never even talked about it. It was just a barbecue thing. So when you look at how this whole thing has evolved, whenever you came up with this harebrained scheme of World Food Championships, did you think that it will have evolved into what it has 10 years later? Is it bigger than you ever thought it would be?
I actually thought it would be bigger.
Really?
By now. Yeah. And it would be if it weren't for COVID. We were poised for some phenomenal things coming out of 2019, and a few of those just got train wrecked by COVID, and we have struggled to regain that momentum, in my opinion. But we were very close. In fact, I get on a plane tomorrow to jump the pond and finally get to roll up my sleeves on what we thought was going to happen in 2020. We're about to really, really impress a lot of people and shock a lot of people in this industry in the next 6 months. So but it took, we had a 2-year hiatus almost, and it was really the danger that came out of COVID was, I know there's always been rumors and questions, is WFC going to happen again, or is the final table going to happen? And I finally got to a point where I didn't give a shit anymore about what people said. I knew in my heart what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and it was going to happen. And I adopted the opinion that, you can say whatever you want to, until you decide to put your name and your checkbook on the line like I do. Sit down and shut the fuck up. So, I don't know, is this family? Is this our?
This is the internet, Mike. I don't know if you knew it or not. There's porno on the internet, so saying the F word, it's a little tame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But in all seriousness, I just got to a point where I was like, I don't care what people say, because I knew what we were going to do. But I will say to you that coming out of COVID, there were some serious hitches in the giddy up, so to speak. There were a lot of companies that were about to sign on, about to do this, whether it's TV centric or international centric, et cetera, that all sat back and said, okay, we gotta press pause now, because it's not going to look good if we do X or if we do Y, and we need to see if this is actually even going to be a part of our game plan going forward. So we had to get through the last 2 years and really find out who the contenders were from a sponsorship standpoint, and who the pretenders were. And it's been an eye-opening experience. So I forget what your teed up question was on that, but I think, I remember, had we not had, that curveball that came out of nowhere for everyone, not just us, not just our industry, but everyone, right? But think about our industry, live event, in person kind of stuff.
Close.
COVID was a game changer for so many people, and I see it still in all the events that we sanction or that we certify. There's a lot of events that are still trying to, get back on the grid, get back into their swing of things, to get back in motion, and it's not been easy. So we do everything we can to help the industry, and hopefully, what we'll be doing over the next 6 to 12 months will re-energize and recharge and get us back on track. But I think the 10th anniversary was exactly what it needed to be. We could have done a lot more. I wish we could have done a lot more, but we at least put forth our best foot, and we had a great event. We had a great turnout, great champions. Oh my God, it's great food, and some great concepts that got implemented. So I'm very happy with it.
You're kind of answering this next question, but let me just ask it bluntly. Is there still a high interest from businesses in the food space, or that might be in this periphery, that are looking to come on and partner or sponsor this event?
Yes, there is, but it's more noticeable now for a guy who's been in the marketing business now for 30 plus years. It's real easy to see who has the chops, what businesses are doing well and what businesses are not, and what businesses just can't level up. Used to, it wasn't that big of a deal to drop 30 or 50 grand into a year-long marketing program that involved food sport. And there are businesses that still want to do it, and they want to double down. But they're not as numerous as they were. And I think the whole pandemic really shook out some of the pretenders from the industry. So I watch it closely, as I know you do, and I know a lot of other folks who do. I'm seeing people retrench that I have been surprised by, and I'm seeing people press forward that I've been surprised by. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag.
What's the legacy of Mike McCloud? I know you got, Tucker now. I remember when you didn't have a Tucker too. That's how long we've known each other. Do you hope that he just finds his own way into something that he's passionate about? Do you secretly hope that he somehow develops a passion for food sport as well, and will end up taking this over and bringing it to whatever new height from where you're leaving it to him? What do you hope from a legacy standpoint?
Wow, that's a big question. Let's start with what has driven me for the last 15 years in food sport, and that is simply to be one of the contributing factors to making sure that food sport has a place and is perceived as a legitimate enterprise, and that major corporations will invest in this and help those food competitors out there, the food champs as I call them, with their aspirations to keep fueling the fire, so to speak. And I just want to go down as one of those guys that really helps solidify that and make it happen. As for Tucker, I mean, he is my legacy, right? I mean, he's going to hopefully be afforded every opportunity to pursue whatever his passion is. And right now, that's a lot of things. And I'm enjoying every free moment I have with him to relive not only my childhood, but to really embrace his and support him as a young kid and a toddler to a kid, and then from kid to a young man. I don't know if he's going to have a place in food sport. I don't know if he's really going to embrace it, because that's important, right? Whatever you do, if you really want to make a difference and you want to be a best in class of whatever it is, you've got to love what you're doing. And I'm going to try to help him understand that concept, and then we're going to find what he loves to do, and I'm going to give him as many opportunities as possible to pursue it.
As a guy that's looking to expand the brand, as you said, you're getting ready to head over to wherever it is across the pond that you're going to go to try and knock down deals and so forth. That involves a lot of travel. Food sport itself involves a lot of travel. Do you find yourself conflicted at all that you're away? Do you take them wherever you go and you guys are together, or is it, the more traditional dad's out and now you're working within yourself to justify time away to get what you need done, but also trying to spend the quality time with your kid?
I can't fully answer that question without shedding some personal light on my life, and I don't mind doing that. I have shared custody with Tucker. Chelsea, his mom, and I are great friends. Just turned out we weren't soulmates that we needed to be, but we produced a really damn fine kid. And the arrangement that we have allows me to have him almost half the time, and what that affords me to do is to be present in all things that are of interest to me. One is food sport, and when I don't have Tucker, I'm on the road or I'm in a plane and I'm going somewhere to further this passion and this mission that I've been called to, I think. And then when it's my turn to have him, I am all in on him and all about him. And for the first time in my life, just this year, I was able to become an assistant coach of a T-ball team that he played on. And there's nothing else. I don't answer phone calls. I don't look at emails when that happens. It's 100% about Tucker, and that's the way my life is balanced right now. And amongst other things, be it your religion, your faith, and things of that nature. But those are the two things that I seesaw in between, and it's not always easy, but it's worth it. One of my best friends who ever gave me advice about having a son as an older guy, he basically said, and I know it's a kind of an old saying, but it's true. He reminded me that, the days are long, but the years are short, and to embrace them. And that those words are so true. So I just try to be 100% present in his life, and I try to be 100% present in my mission.
Do you think that the World Food Championships has gained a certain amount of stability, knocking COVID out as best we can? I know we can't not talk about it because it happened, but holding that off to the side, do you think that it's gained some type of better stability because of a consistent place to have World Food Championships? In the beginning, as we were talking about how long we've known each other. There was Vegas, there was Florida, there was Alabama, and it always seemed like every few years you're moving, and maybe not having that consistency can lead to some complacency from competitors, where if you have someplace you know you're going to show up every year, you can plan for that, and maybe a more consistent competitor shows up.
Every time we stay in a location for at least 3 years, there is a level of consistency and dependability that is important to the franchise. But what's more important is delivering on our overall promise every year in and year out. We've now achieved 10 years. We still have a final table to do to cap the 10th anniversary, but to do what we've done, we've almost awarded about $3 million, Greg, in prize money. If you'd asked me, 15 years ago, if I was going to be a guy that's going to put $3 million out there, and sometimes a lot of it my own personal money, just for the pursuit of food excellence, I'd have been like, what? The what? But doing what we do day in and day out and doing it with consistency and dependability, no matter where we are, is important. As you know, our final table has been moving around every year, even since we've been in Dallas, right? That's been a strategic thing, and it will continue to be a strategic thing. Are we always going to be in Dallas? I can't say to you that we will. There are some challenges with being in Dallas. It's a very expensive market. I know it's very expensive for our competitors to go to and to conduct a competition and stay 5 days in. I hear that every year. So as we continue to receive bids from other cities, and we've got 2 that we're looking at the moment that are pretty serious, because we just completed our 3-year deal with Dallas. As we look at other opportunities, we're having to ask that question now: is this accretive to our brand? Is this, if we move here, does it look like we're moving backwards, or does this advance the ball? Is this going to help food sport get bigger and better and broader and more inclusive and more consumer friendly? So we go through those questions every December and January at the end of a contract, and I'm right in the middle of trying to answer that question right now.
Do you foresee?
I would say that. Let me cap your question off with this.
Sure.
If we were to move the championship, it would not concern me from a brand standpoint, because we will have already checked all the boxes of why we're moving, and that it is better for the brand and better for the competitors. Those are the 2 most important things. Getting consumers to a food event is not the hard part, unless you have just a real shitty location, right? And there's a lot of events out there that have really bad locations. We've had some of our own. That's why we were one and done in Florida, for example. But making sure that it's good for the competition industry to get to and conduct their job is numero uno. And making sure that it is great for the brand, that it's complementary, that it is a city or a location that is complementary to what we're trying to achieve, is numero dos. So we've got to do those 2 things, and I don't feel like we have to be locked into one city for the rest of our lives. We got a lot of things going on at the World Food Championships, and about the only thing that is actually geographically tied is the final table, because we do localized competition challenges when we do the final table, because we do move it on an annual basis. But as far as the main event, the main event could be, look at NASCAR. How many great NASCAR venues are there out there? Does it matter if you're in Daytona versus Michigan versus Talladega? there, when you look at that schedule, you don't think, oh wow, they're in Daytona, it's worse this year, or that event's not as good as the Talladega event. You don't think that, right? It's great for the brand that they do that. So we're trying to understand that value and that proposition in numerous ways as it affects other sports and how it affects our sport.
Do you have any insight as to what the final table is going to look like then in 2023?
None that I can share with you tonight, but I do have some insight. There's the final table, which will be in May of this year, based on our options, will be either a very strategically important domestic location, or for the first time in our history, an international location. I can tell you that.
That follows my next question, which would be, do you foresee a time, we don't have to put any date on it at this point, but the World Food Championships says world in the first word or in the title, right? So I'm more of a myopic American than perhaps most people wanted to admit. So when, we say world champion here, we talk about baseball, but it's still here, and football, same thing. World Food Championships. I don't know how many international teams are coming over, but it's still here. Could this turn into an instance where the World Food Championships here in America are the American Championships, and then we have something else in Europe and something else in Australia, what have you? Do you foresee, and then culminating in some big World Food Championships in Brussels or Dubai or something like this?
Yes. That's going to happen in the next 18 to 24 months. We had 33 international teams at this year's event. We had 4 last year. Now, that was a COVID situation last year, but 33 international teams came to the World Food Championships this year. We've had almost 50 countries represented at WFC in our history. So the appetite is there. The question is, are the international partners there to do a European Food Championships, to do an Asian Food Championships, to do an Australian Food Championships, et cetera? I can go ahead and tell you this because I want to make it public tomorrow anyway. I'll be on a plane tomorrow to London, and it's because we think we now have the partner that helps us expand into at least 3, if not 4 more continents in the next 18 months. So that moment is here, and I think the 10th anniversary was one of those proving points that we had to kind of get over that hump. And we had a lot of international partners in Dallas this year to talk to us about what does this look like in a expanded format? What does it look like if you drop it into Dubai? What does it look like if you drop it into Paris? So those conversations have been happening in earnest. And tomorrow I have to cross the pond and talk even more deeply about it. So I think 2023 is going to be the year that you see significant advancement of that ball. And the second part of your question about does the American version become the American Championship, that remains to be seen. We obviously are very American right now. I will say to you that even though we had 6 countries represented in our Burger Championship this year in the finals, and we had 2 translators in the finals for the first time. I don't know how many other events have had to do that. Even though that happened, and we saw that as a huge, amazing development, in the eyes of those international teams, we still looked very American, right? I mean, you're talking, they were having to sell their international flavor to 5 very great judges, but 5 American judges.
Yeah.
So eventually I have to find a way to resolve that. If we're truly going to be what our moniker says we are. And that has been our vision from day one. We never kidded ourselves. When we put the name out there, we knew some people were going to be like, what? Are you for real? So we had vision for this. and now we're at the point of implementing it. So stay tuned. You'll see some news from our official outlets, our official platforms in the next probably the next 60 days that will make that a little bit more evident.
We're talking with Mike McCloud. Mike, can I put you on hold for 1 second? We'll come back and talk a little something other than World Food Championship. All right.
Sure.
Stand by. We're talking with Mike McCloud. The website, of course, worldfoodchampionship.com. And we will catch up with him here in just one moment. I will talk to you quickly about what I led the show off with, the Do Wellness program, David Leans, davidleans.com/BBQ. Did you know the people who set a goal 4 to 6 weeks before the new year ends? So we're right in the middle of that right now. 3 to 10 times, yes, 10 times more likely to achieve their fitness goals. Be honest. How long has losing a few pounds been on your to-do list? Now, we all listen to the show because we love barbecue, and I know a lot of us make a habit of getting second, third, and fourth servings because, well, it's delicious. But what effect has that and an activity level that's not what it used to be had on your health over the last handful of years? Maybe you've heard that having a dad bod is cool. Hey, take it from a stud like me. There's nothing sexy about wearing your gluttony everywhere you go, not to mention being overweight increases the risk for all causes of mortality, including strokes, cancers, coronary artery disease, sleep apnea, the list goes on. Making the decision to change decades-old food habits can mean the difference between you attaining your health goals versus dealing with unknown health challenges that you and your family will have to face down the road. That's where my pal David McDowell comes in. He was on last week. If you missed it, go ahead and get the podcast. But I am now 22 weeks into the program. As I said, I am investing my own money in to get where I want to go. It's working. Yes, I have the huge water jug. He doesn't require that. But I have it because it's in sight. It's in mind. I am a properly hydrated human now for the first time perhaps in my life. So if you need some accountability, you're willing to invest a little bit of money on your health in order to get help to do it, then join me in the fitness explosion. Let's go. davidleans.com/BBQ. That's davidleans.com/BBQ. Sign up, have that initial talk, hammer out what you're looking to do. He will meet you where you're at. If you have any questions, you can call him, you can text him, you can email him, you can video chat with him. He's available. Do it now. Don't wait. As I said, don't use the new year as a time marker. That's trash. Start now and start the weeks. davidleans.com/BBQ. We're back with more Mike McCloud right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion being brought to you by Smithfield. Of course, we know the grant program applications are now closed. However, there still might be a few of their Committed Cooks program spots open in 2023. Participating teams receive a premium swag kit, coupons, and surprises through the season. Spots are limited. Sign up at smokinwithsmithfield.com. That's smokinwithsmithfield.com. And we are joined once again by Mike McCloud from World Food Championships. But before World Food Championships, I knew Mike McCloud as only the president and CEO of a company called MMA Creative. So I don't know what pulse you're keeping these days, Mike, on the barbecue community. I would secretly hope it's feverish because that's kind of how this whole relationship got started. But there's a new CEO at KCBS. A lot of people seem to think that he gives the organization a great shot at recapturing past popularity. And I've openly theorized that it might not be the worst idea to have somebody at the KCBS reach out to somebody at MMA Creative and look at getting back together to see if there could be a rekindling of what was really once a great and powerful partnership. Is that a misplaced nostalgia on my part, or conceptually, do you think that could happen?
I didn't realize you were a hopeless romantic, Greg.
You know it.
I don't think it's a great question. How about if I answer it that way?
Do you think KCBS outside of it now, but as we look back at the years that you were in putting deals together for the KCBS side of things, but just talking about Competition Barbecue in general, when we were originally talking and then over those years during that partnership that you had with them, it seemed like Competition Barbecue was all the rage. Everybody was talking about it. You didn't have to be in any type of world-class shape to be the best competition barbecue cook. Not only that, if you got an interest in it, you had the ability on any given weekend to really go up against the best. If you wanted to travel to Nebraska or Georgia or wherever you wanted to go, you could literally be stacked up against Darren Worth or Myron Mixon or whatever great name of the day you want to throw out. You can't do that in any other competition setting. So was that just a moment in time where all the planets aligned right and Mercury's in retrograde and whatever stupid analogy we want to put together here? Or do you think there could be a recapture of that popularity once again?
I think anything's possible. So I never say never. The uniqueness of that time frame that you're referring to is that you had a lot of the levers that needed to be pulled being pulled in the right direction. I mean, you had great TV, you had great passion in the industry, you had legends that were still competing, and you had newbies that were coming on the scene and doing it in different ways, and those cultures were combining and creating some unforeseen, unexpected opportunities. And then you had a company like ours that truly looked at it as an industry that deserved to be marketed and promoted for its own merits. And we worked diligently at that. Our tenure of 12 years speaks for itself now. In hindsight, I believe, but it was not easy, and I don't think it ever will be easy based on the current structure of most KCB or most barbecue sanctioning bodies. I love KCBS. Always have, always will. Always respect the people who were part of my life and still are. In fact, one of the special moments this year at the World Food Championships was our barbecue finals panel. To be able to have 5 legends as our judges, all of them steeped heavily in the history of KCBS, was special to me, so much so that I think I even broke up when I was talking to them at the end and thanking them. But here's the thing, Greg. I mean, if you want to go barbecue uncensored, KCBS is hampered by the thing that makes it great. You have, and I say this on behalf of any organization like them, not just them. You have individuals who volunteer their time to be on a board of directors, and in spite of their best intentions, they really find a good way to muck it up. They get too involved. They get too deep in the weeds with what's going on or should be going on from an executive standpoint. So if Rod Gray can stop that and be what an executive director is supposed to be, and actually call the shots and make, get support for the shots that need to be called when there's strikes or balls, then yeah, it can get back to its day of glory from an organizational standpoint. I don't know what they're doing on the marketing front. I don't see a whole lot of, retail or consumer facing marketing like we were involved with back in the day. And maybe they have it going on and I'm just not in the circles that they're promoting it. I don't know. But fundamentally, the structure of a nonprofit board that is a volunteer board that you have to play politics with and you have to be on the defense with in many instances is a problem. um, I remember the first 3 or 4 years of being involved with KCBS. Every single 3-year cycle, which led into a 4th year cycle, we literally had to go into a board meeting and defend who we were, what we were doing, and why we were doing it. And at some point, I was like, "What the f? Why do 3 of you or 4 of you newbies come in here thinking that we're the ones that are robbing Peter to pay Paul or whatever it is?" I just didn't. It became very clear to me very soon into about 4 years into our relationship. Well, actually, it was very clear the first month, but the annual grind of trying to tell a board of directors what you're doing and why you're doing it and that it's good for you just ultimately became a fool's errand. And when ultimately the politics of it turned into a little bit of backstabbing or a little bit of fiefdom here and there, a little click over here, a little click there, then you started playing politics. You spent more time doing politics than you did marketing an entity that you loved. And that's when I realized our days were numbered. It was just a matter of, how and when and where, the final blow would occur. And I think they're going to have that issue with any marketing firm. There's not first of all, I don't think there's ever going to be a marketing firm that did it the way we did it, where we basically said, if you don't make $1, we don't make a dime. Most other marketing guys are smarter than me. They want to get paid up front. And, we took a flyer and basically said, we'll earn our way and we'll prove it to you that we're good at what we do. And after about 3 or 4 years, that was evident. And I still, in the 5th and 6th and 7th and up to 12th year, I kept having to explain what we're doing. I was like, why am I having to beat my head against the wall like this? So, I send 100% support and good luck to Rod and the folks that have to do the day-to-day grind, because when you've got 12 angry men looking over your shoulder, or people, I should say. And that's always what I thought of. I always thought of that movie, the 12 Angry Men, the jurors, when I was in that hot seat. You never knew when you got a phone call, when your phone rang and a board member's name popped up. He's like, if it's going to be a good call or is it going to be a bad call? Is it going to be politics? Is it actually going to be about positive business? You never quite knew. And maybe things have changed. I don't know. I'm not on the inside loop like I used to be, but that was the Achilles heel for the organization, in my opinion, back then. And it probably is the same with any organization that has a nonprofit board that takes a very heavy hand in trying to determine the day-to-day decisions. People need to learn. It's like owning a business, right? If you hire a manager, let that manager do his job or her job. If you hire an employee, teach that employee what to do and then turn them loose. If you're going to micromanage them day in, day out, then what the hell are you doing? Why are you hiring that person? So it's probably a little bit more than you expected to hear from me. And I apologize to those who think that I'm taking a bad angle here, but I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to tell you honestly what my experience was.
He is on his way to England tomorrow, so I'm sure there's an early bell that's going to need to happen. I won't keep you any longer, Mike. I certainly appreciate the time here. It was great to catch up. Appreciate the look back on this year's event, and of course the look back on where the World Food Championships has really come out of 10 years ago, and it's now an event that everybody's talking about every year. And if things come to fruition, this is really only the beginning. The next 10 years are going to be absolutely dynamic, and we'll look forward to tracking that. And I promise to do my part to not let 2 years pass before we have you on again. Again, appreciate the candor and the insight, and good luck tomorrow and everything else you have planned over the next couple of weeks. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Greg. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate what you do. Probably not enough people tell you that you really do a great deal of good stuff for barbecue. So keep doing it. I can't wait to see what the next chapters look like for me and you. So good luck. Merry Christmas to you. talk to you sooner rather than later.
All right, there he is, Mike McCloud right there. World Food Championships and MMA Creative, if you didn't know. So great information there. Figured since I had him, why not? See if there could be a rekindling. I mean, geez, back in the day, that was a very solid relationship. Was. The Sam's Club Barbecue Tour was born out of MMA Creative. By the way, if you didn't notice, that is not going on anymore. Thanks to Mike McCloud. Hey, back in the day, watches were made to be worn in the pocket. After World War II, wristwatches came into vogue, and the pocket watch quickly became an afterthought, finding its way into sock drawers and scrap heaps, and that's a tragedy. Enter Vortic Watch Company, helping bridge the gap between America's storied watch manufacturing past and bridging it to the present day, where wristwatches are now finding incredible popularity once again. Here's the coolest part. Each watch that Vortic makes is unique and one of a kind. Vortic, founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Check out VorticWatches.com for more info. That's VorticWatches.com. We're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rimpey.
And we thank Mike McCloud for joining us the past two segments, or should we say the balance of the second hour, starting at about 14 past. And we talked a lot about the past of the World Food Championships. Of course, a lot about what happened here recently, the COVID years, which were quite a hurdle for them to get over, but they have made it past it. And this year, really gaining that momentum back, as Mike said, and then, of course, touching on some competition barbecue as we closed it out last segment, which I certainly appreciate. So, with that being said, as we're a little late, 2 minutes past the top of the hour, we'll go ahead and get going out of here. All the way back in the first hour, starting out, was Rusty Monson from Salt City BBQ, making his last quarterly check-in of 2022 as we talk about his barbecue trailer. Talk about the last 90 days of business, what he looks to have going here over the next handful of months in 2023. He did talk about brick and mortar. He did talk about investors. He did talk about food trucks and not more food trailers. So all very interesting stuff in case you missed it. First hour will be available on podcast Wednesday. In the second hour, then we had Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com. We talked a lot about the new Weber news, that Weber's being taken back privately out of the public sector. And we also talked a little bit about some of the other bigger companies that are still public and what their fate might be, given the fact that there's a lot of inventory and a lot of it isn't moving. And of course, there's going to be more coming. So what do you do with that? Second hour, Mike McCloud, worldfoodchampionship.com is the website. And he's on his way to England to potentially strike a deal that, if I'm reading into it properly, might bring the final table this year over to England. So we'll see what happens there. Any updates I'll give you here on social media or next Tuesday when the next live show airs. So, big show planned for you next Tuesday. It's the third Tuesday. Mr. J will be in, amongst others. So we're looking forward to talking some pizza there. How do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Marley Rempe, and you're listening to Barbecue Central.